Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. This is Congressman Adriano Espaillat, representing the New York's 13th congressional district, which encompasses Harlem, the village of Harlem, East Harlem, El Barrio, Washington Heights, Inwood, and the Northwest Bronx, an iconic district. And we are celebrating this year's Black History Month. Towards the end of it, of course, February every year is Black History Month, but Black history is really every single day of the year. And so we're celebrating and recognizing incredible luminaries throughout New York's 13th congressional district. And I'm excited today to have with us an Emmy Award-winning journalist. You all know her. She is not just a journalist, but an author and a member of the New York One news team, Cheryl Wills. Cheryl anchors New York One's Live at 10 on weeknights and is one of the station's most recognizable journalists for breaking news and special coverage. She also has a special program every week, In Focus with Cheryl Wills. I love to go on her program. She has a great smile, but behind that smile, she is tremendously smart and sharp. And I'm always delighted to join her in the program to share legislative updates and to speak about issues about the district that I represent and about families across the district. We are excited to have her today and to hear about her and her journey. She has a very interesting journey. And we want to celebrate Black History Month by listening to folks that have a special journey that maybe you have not heard about, but that in its very essence is something that exemplifies Black History Month. So we're happy to have Cheryl Wills. She's known throughout the community and is a special voice for all of us. And we're also joined today by an American fencer. Now, fencing is a sport that very often we don't hear about in our communities, but is becoming more and more popular every day. And we see more of our children and families interested in fencing as an avenue for sports and competition for their children. And we have a two-time Olympian with us, Nzinga Prescott. Nzinga began fencing at the age of 9 and has blazed a path as a leader in her sport, becoming the first African-American woman to win an individual medal at the Senior World Championships in fencing, a very competitive sport. And we often hear that fencing is expensive, or perhaps we don't hear much about it in our communities, but that's changing every day. And Nzinga is right at the head of that. She is leading the way to make sure that our young people have access to that sport, that wonderful sport. Continuing her efforts to impact our community, Nzinga is now the founder and executive director of the Prescott Institute for Sport, Teamwork, and Education, an organization dedicated to bringing the art of fencing to inner city kids. What a great challenge and what a great mission. So we have two terrific ladies here with us today, two top women in the African-American community that I think will tell us about their journey, and we'll learn so much from them during this Black History Month. We're excited to welcome both of them. And let's now hear from you, starting with Cheryl and then Nzinga. Thank you both for being here with us today. I'm sure you have a lot to talk about. And Candace Persons, who's my communications specialist, director here in Washington. She's originally not from Harlem, from Arkansas, but we love her anyway, Cheryl and Nzinga. And she will be sharing with you both the questions that have been forwarded by some of our listeners and some of our followers. So thank you both. And I would love to continue to work with both of you. You are terrific and an example of what African American women can do in our society. Candace, please, with the questions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again. Thank you, Congressman. Cheryl, Nzinga, thank you so much for joining tonight's program. We are honored to have you here. So question number one for both of you, who or what inspired your journey into your professional field?
We're here for Cheryl first.
I'll start first. Okay, Candace, thank you for that wonderful question and for coordinating all of this, Candace. You're always the consummate professional. Anytime I'm lucky enough to get an interview with the congressman. And Congressman, I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of this amazing event. Happy Black History Month, one and all. And who inspired me to be a journalist? I would have to say my mom, because I am a city kid. I am a New York City kid. And my father was killed in a motorcycle accident. He was a firefighter, and I was 13. And I had a dream of being a journalist, didn't have any connections, didn't know anybody. And my mom just told me to never give up the dream. My mom is still with us, thank God. She's 82. And because of her believing in me, that's why I am the woman I am today. I've been at New York One, y'all, for 32 years.
Wow.
I helped launch one in 1992. So I'm really proud to still be a part of the game. And it's to be able to interview and even watch the ascension of Congressman Adriano Espaillat. I remember before he was a member of Congress and watching his rise and the transfer of power between the congressman and Charlie Rangel, and how graceful you were about the entire transfer. So it's one of the things that makes my job wonderful.
Nzinga, let's hear from you now.
That was a beautiful response. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having us both, Congressman. And I'm so excited to speak with you both today. So as Cheryl, I grew up in the city. I'm a native New Yorker. And I grew up in an area called Flatlands in Brooklyn. And it's a two-fare zone, so it's difficult to get to commuting wise. And so I grew up with a single mom from the Caribbean. It's a predominantly Caribbean neighborhood. And she always wanted the best for her children. And she wanted to put us in sports because sports are such a powerful tool for young people to grow into their highest self. You learn teamwork, you learn how to work hard. I always tell people like how you work, like your work ethic, it's not necessarily intuitive. And so sports teach that. They give you structure, they give you routine. You learn commitment. They teach you the value of your effort, and how that affects your outcomes and your performance. And so she always loved sports for us. And when I was 9 years old, she brought me to the Peter Westbrook Foundation, where Representative Espaillat's soon-to-be son-in-law is my teammate. And Peter Westbrook is a six-time Olympian, bronze medalist in the '94 Olympics, and he paved the way for inner city youth to learn the sport of fencing, which you can imagine, and as you know, is not the most common sport. It's not basketball, and there are a lot of barriers to entry. It's expensive. Culturally, it's not the most available sport, and the one on the forefront of our minds. And it's also geographically challenging to get to. So I had to commute from Flatlands, Brooklyn, to Chelsea, Manhattan, which was not easy. But fortunately, Peter made that available to me, and I had role models, Keith and Aaron Smart, who are Olympians ahead of me. So I saw what it looked like, what it required, and I had those people to inspire me, and I had these icons of greatness that I could real life touch them and ask them questions and see how they trained and what was required to get to that level, and I worked backwards from there. So I would say Peter Westbrook definitely inspired my journey. Aaron and Keith Smart my mom, who's an immigrant, like so many of us, second generation, who, teaches work ethic and what it takes to be great and, really pushing ourselves to be our best. So I really credit them for my journey. And now since I've retired, passing that on to the next generation and really giving them that opportunity, because the pickings are slim when you're a young person growing up in the city. And it's really challenging to find quality youth development experiences where you're immersed in learning and you're in a positive space to become your best self. So very proud to be able to provide that through Peace, and thankful for the journey so far.
Okay.
That's incredible.
Incredible,
Thank you
both
both.
of you. Yes. Okay, and what challenges have you faced due to race along your journey, if any? And if so, how have you overcome that? I think people ought to know what it's been like for you, and if you have any particular stories or challenges that you can share with us. Cheryl?
I think she would be frozen.
Okay, so why don't we start with Nzinga? Any challenges?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think one of the biggest challenges of the ecosystem of being in a sport that's predominantly white, you're vastly underrepresented, is one of the challenges, you're surrounded by people that don't look like you, who aren't from where you're from. And that's a huge challenge to continue in that space when you're one of the few who have your experience. And so that paired with being surrounded by privilege, fencing's a sport that historically and still does attract a lot of affluent families. And so, being part of that space where you're not the most privileged, you're coming from a humble beginning and you're surrounded by privilege, can be challenging. But my mom always told me, my mom passed away just a couple months ago, but my mom always told me, you're blessed with love. You might not have the most money, but you're endowed with love. And so that's what I felt in my community at the Peter Rescue Foundation. And that was my resolve to the challenge. And ultimately, I think all of the success I've had in the sport has been a result of my struggle. That the struggle really has empowered me, I think, to be resilient. And that's really like what propelled me to reach the heights of the sport. So I think, the challenges of that, are apparent, but you're always great. You're always greater, I think, when you can learn from what's a challenge. And I'm proud to represent, the African Americans and the Black community and be that face and that presence and that inspiration now for the kids growing up in the sport.
Great, that's great to hear. Well, while we await, I don't know if Cheryl has joined us again.
Back. Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. We want to know, have you any challenges that you may have faced due to race along your successful journey, and what have you done to overcome them? I mean, I think the public sees you with that great smile you have and the smarts that you bring on TV, as well as Nzinga. Well, what challenges behind that a beautiful smile and smartness that you bring, sharp, that you bring to the television? What have you faced along the way that you can share with us? It has been really difficult.
Sure. And I apologize. My Wi-Fi is weak. I don't know why. I'm in the newsroom, but it is what it is. So I faced over my 5-year career numerous challenges as it relates to race, but I've also had numerous advantages. And to know that there's a very strong movement to rescind affirmative action policies. That's very heartbreaking to me. As a descendant of enslaved people in this country, for the forces to come up and say, oh, well, these opportunities are not fair anymore. It's mind-blowing for people of color. But with that said, I really do believe that Black History Month teaches us that any challenge, to your point, that we are faced with, we must think of people like Harriet Tubman. We must think of people like Frederick Douglass and all of the greats who overcame seemingly insurmountable obstacles. And it makes you say, if they could do that during slavery, then there's nothing I can't do. So anytime I've been confronted with bias in any way, I think of Harriet Tubman. I really do. I tap into the power of these people who, you talk about the deck stacked against you. I mean, my ancestors were enslaved in South Carolina, in Tennessee, in Florida, and because they lived and survived, I am here. So I try not to complain. And Congressman, thank you for noting my smile. I do keep a smile on my face. I won't let the sun catch me frowning because I am the beneficiary of greatness. I am the beneficiary of people who overcame obstacles that would kill the average person. So what am I complaining about or talking about? So I just seize every opportunity and I keep the door open for people like our beloved Nzinga to walk through. And one of the things I'm so inspired by Nzinga's story and passion, we're going to see Nzinga on New York 1 really soon.
I can't wait. I love New York 1.
That is great. That is great, both of you, to hear about your resilience. And Cheryl, also, I share your concern about the efforts to push back the clock, right? But we won't let that happen. We will continue to move forward. And we will work harder, even harder, to ensure that the opportunities that have been obtained through, as you said, difficult journeys, right? And difficult fights throughout history, that they're not reversed, that they're not pushed back. We cannot let that happen. And I am confident that we will not let it happen. So now the next question is, what advice do you have for the next generation? I mean, Nzinga, you're pretty young, but I'm sure you're thinking about the next generation. What advice do you have for the next generation?
Every day. That's my thing now. I would say, I think I spend a lot of time going out into the community and sharing the sport. So we have a couple of components at Peace. So the Academy, it's our intensive competitive program, but we also do school programs. Like we have a few programs in your district, Hamilton Grange and Eagle Academy. And then there's also a program at the Harlem Armory that are they're all going very strong. So I would say a challenge I've seen is young people sometimes are a little closed off to new things. And I think something that's really helped me and helped me get to this point is being open and exploring and spending time doing something that I love and being willing to try something new. No one in my neighborhood fenced. I was the only one with my foils traveling on the train, all the way back to Flatbush Ave. No one else, everyone would look at me like, are those skiing sticks? So, I was the only one doing it. I was in school traveling to Germany when I was in 7th grade. And I wouldn't even tell people where I was going because it's just, at some point, it's like, it's too much to explain. So I had so much access through the sport of fencing. I had so many opportunities. And now at Peace, we're sending 8 of our members to Paris this summer for the Olympics.
The Olympics, that's correct.
They wouldn't have, at 13 years old, who would have that opportunity to do that if you're not involved in fencing? One of our students we're sending to Paris, she just started 2 months ago. She's a teen. She's 16 years old. She lives in East New York, and she's heading to Paris because she tried something new. So you never know where that type of energy of like being very open and being very receptive to new possibilities for yourself is going to lead you. It can lead you anywhere. And so I encourage the next generation to really embrace new opportunity, and to go beyond what's most normative in your space, because sometimes those pathways are dried up. You know, there's lots of options for your life, and we're not always, I think, as people of color, presented with all the options. And so just be very aware and actively explore what else you can do.
Thank you. Cheryl, could you share
Yes.
with us what advice do you have for the next generation of journalists? What do you have to say to them?
Yes. So for the next generation of journalists, my advice is to know your ancestry. I think you know, Congressman, I am the proud great-great-great-granddaughter of an enslaved African who fought in the Civil War. His name was Sandy Wills. And when I was young, I did not have the privilege or benefit of knowing about this honorable legacy. He served 1863 until 1865. And I went through school right here in New York City, not knowing anything about it. So my advice to young people, whatever industry you want to get in, know who you are. Connect those dots. Today, there are websites, genealogy websites, where you can really just, with the click of a button, reconnect with your ancestors. And I'll tell you, Congressman, I found the plantation where my grandfather was buried. And I met the family that are the descendants of the people who once owned my family. And I am going back on April 29th with an archaeology crew to get my grandfather out of an unmarked grave and have him reburied with honor in a national cemetery. And so that, to me, is what Black History Month is all about. Knowing thyself and doing right by your ancestors. Your ancestors want you to be excellent. Don't you agree? Your ancestors want you to take advantage of everything they didn't get the chance to do. So that's my heartfelt advice to young people. Know who you are.
Good. That's amazing advice. I agree.
Thank you.
That's an amazing story, Cheryl, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to share that with us, and to ensure that everybody perhaps has that same opportunity. And why not exercise your ability to get to your ancestry and honor it in the same way, shape, and form that you're doing, Cheryl. And if you, like they say very commonly, if you don't know your past, if you don't know your history, you won't know where you're heading. So that's
right.
so important to know where you come from, so that you know you have a clear path. You don't need a GPS. You need to know where you came from. That will set your path for you. And so both of you have been tremendous. Nzinga, who's trying to motivate young people to try this new sport that builds resiliency, character, and discipline, and it's something that can open pathways for young people and their families. And Cheryl, who's an accomplished journalist that we see every day, and just for her to share those stories, I think this makes this year's Black History Month so much special. But now, Candace, I'll turn it to you. I don't know if there's some additional questions that you may have for
Yes, sir.
Cheryl or Nzinga.
Yes, we have time for one final question from our audience, comments online. So Cheryl, Nzinga, thank you so much. Truly, thank you, and for having you both here to share your respective journeys. In closing remarks to the audience, to you, tell us, what does Black History Month mean?
Yes, I guess I'll start. So Black History Month means honoring your ancestors and preparing a launching pad for those to come. They work together. And I think that that is my driving motivation in everything I do. I'm on the air at night, but almost every morning I'm in schools. And I'm teaching children about the United States colored troops from the Civil War. And I'm standing as a soldier in the 21st century, representing a soldier from the 19th century. And when I go to so many schools, they haven't heard of the United States colored troops. They didn't know that there were Black men that helped Lincoln win the Civil War. They just don't know. So I will be in literally 2 schools in Brooklyn tomorrow morning. And that's what Black History Month means to me. Each one, reach one, and teach one.
I love it. Yeah, but as Congressman Espaillat said earlier, I believe every day is Black History Month. And I'm constantly living the mission of, social equity, racial equity, advancing Black people, and I'm preparing our youth for the next generation. I think Black History Month is celebrating our history, celebrating where we came from and how far we've come and where we're going. So I think it's very important to highlight stories like Cheryl and stories like mine, because we are not always the most apparent. And our stories are powerful. We're powerful people. We've done incredible things, especially considering where we come from. And so I think people like us need to be more visible, because hearing our story, a young person hearing our story, that can plant a seed, and that is powerful for their journey. So I think Black History Month is a great moment in time to really focus on highlighting trajectories like ours that are not always, you don't always hear about them. And young people need to know that there are these types of possibilities for how their lives can go. When I was 9 years old, I thought it was doctor, lawyer, and that's it. But that's, the world is so open, and there's so many things, there's so many paths you can take. And so as a young person, you really need someone to kind of take your hand and be like, look at this person, you can end up like this or do something like this. So I love Black History Month for the moment of highlighting our stories, and it's very powerful for what's to come.
Well, thank you both. This is great that we had this conversation, and coming from 2 Black women, what a special opportunity. Huh? I think that that's even a greater opportunity, because I think women are always, as they say, if you want something said, you give it to a man. If you want something done, give it to a woman. And have 2 Black African-American women share their story, their challenges, but most important, their vision, right? What I got from both of you, Cheryl, when you talked about going to the schools and your own efforts to pinpoint your ancestry and then to honor it the way it should be honored, that's tremendous. And Nzinga, in this whole new field that, we say fencing, and then she's out there making it accessible for our kids. That is a tremendous story, right? Both are tremendous stories, and I'm so happy that you share them while we end Black History Month. But as you know, Black History Month is every day, and it's not just, we'll be entering Women's History Month in March. So, we'll continue to promote positive, proactive, resilient stories that make us stronger. So we really want to thank you both for being with us today. And I hope that the folks that follow us, and Candace and my team, are very proud to have heard from you. And I hope that the people that follow us also enjoyed this conversation. Thank you both, and keep the faith.
Thanks for having us.